hands-on classroom activities. We introduce a big idea and the unit, and students do enjoy it a lot.
I love entry points, and I love that we can already learn about new stuff on the first day of our unit.
At the end of every unit, we organize an exit point, and it's a great opportunity to bring all the knowledge they got from different subjects together.
The things that I really enjoy about the IMYC is the call to action that exists in this curriculum. And it's about students having the power and the agency and the confidence to take their learning and put it into action.
It's engaging, it's fun, it's structured, and it's designed using the latest international neuroscientific research.
What makes up the IMYC, all the parts of it, provide such a sound, progressive, rigorous education for the learners.
Hello, I'm Sarah Blackmore, Director of the International Curriculum Association, ICA. We're thrilled to bring our globally recognised curriculum to India's dynamic educational landscape. India's rich tapestry of learning traditions and its drive for educational excellence make it a perfect fit for ICA. Our curriculum, embraced in over 90 countries, is now taking root in India through partnerships with forward-thinking schools. At ICA, we have reimagined what an international curriculum can be. We've had over 20 years working in this field, and I truly believe that it's our unique aspects of holistic learning and adaptability that sets us apart. We recognise that the Indian market has unique needs and aspirations, and that's why we're excited to collaborate with IME, ensuring that our offerings resonate with local educational goals whilst maintaining global standards. In other words, to fit the specific needs of your school and your students. We believe passionately in education that goes beyond the academics. When you choose ICA, you're not just adopting it as a curriculum, you're joining a comprehensive support system. This includes ongoing professional development that empowers your teachers and connects you with a vibrant community of global educators. Our aim? Simple. To equip students with the skills, knowledge and mindset to thrive in our global interconnected world. We're here to support India's journey in shaping global citizens ready for tomorrow's challenge. And we're looking forward to growing alongside India's educational community and contributing to its bright future.
Teaching and using
Hi everyone, good evening. Welcome to this panel discussion on ICA. Thank you so much for joining in, sparing time for this webinar. Appreciate everybody being here. Please enter your details. Please let us know who we are speaking to. Write down your names, roles and schools wherever you are from. It will be great for us to know who we are speaking to. We have Alex here, who is the Global Head for Outreach for ICA. She's going to lead this webinar. I'll hand it over to her. Alex, over to you.
Thank you, Diraj. Share my screen, bear with me. Okay, so good evening, everybody. As Diraj said, my name's Alex Johnson. I'm actually based in the UK, so afternoon for me, evening for you guys. And thank you for joining the webinar today. Thank you for sparing the time to join us and learn more. So just a little bit about kind of why we're here and what we're going to be doing in the session today. So videos and microphones will automatically have been switched off when you join the webinar. We will allow you to switch those on when we get to the Q&A session. Just allows our panelists to speak without sort of any interruptions initially. When we get to the Q&A, if you want to raise your hand or type questions into the chat, there will definitely be opportunities to do that. So yeah, ask questions, share your experiences. I already saw in the chat there's a couple of subscribing schools that have joined the webinar as well. So make those connections, and just remember that be respectful of everybody's different stories that they're telling. Everybody has different contexts and so on and so forth. So yeah, thank you for joining us. Just a little bit of an overview of some of the schools within the India market that are already our subscribing schools. You might recognise some logos there, and some of our panelists are from the some of the schools that you can see on this screen as well today. So as Diraj mentioned, I'm from the Outreach and Development team. I'm based in the UK. I have a colleague called Lynn, who is based in Vietnam and looks after the APAC region, and my other colleague, Karen, who is based in Brazil, and she looks after the Americas and the Africa region. And then we're also joined for the India market entry, who are our partners in India, who are looking after schools and interest in the India market. So we're joined by Diraj and Rakesh from India market entry today as well. So for those of you that don't know who we are and what the International Curriculum Association is all about, so we like to refer to ourselves as a learning ecosystem that is developed with schools and for schools to shape what's next for learning in your organisations. And we really hope to help you realise your vision and transform your school. So what does that look like? So at the ICA, that ecosystem is made up of 3 pillars: improving learning, unlocking potential of our teachers and our leaders, and championing quality. So we help improve the learning of our students all over the world with our 3 international curricula. So we've got the IEYC. You can see the logos in the middle of the visual on the screen. The IEYC is the International Early Years curriculum for our children, which are aged 2 through to 5+. We've got the International Primary Curriculum, which is our primary curriculum for children aged 5 through to 11, and the International Middle Years Curriculum, which is for children aged 11 through to 14. And what we do with our second pillar is we help unlock potential of our teachers and our leaders with our different professional development offerings, which includes both curricular and non-curricular training. So curricular you would expect, but non-curricular things such as safeguarding and so on and so forth. And we also have different leadership programs and regional and international conferences, which is great for networking and sharing best practice. Our upcoming conference is actually in Kuala Lumpur next month. So if anybody is interested in that, I know Diraj and Rakesh have been sharing that with people already. And then the third pillar is championing quality. So with our ICA quality assurance, which includes mentor services, recognition and accreditation. So that is the 3 pillars that bring together the ICA. So there's lots of benefits for leaders, teachers, learners and parents working with the ICA. So our curricula provides a framework. It also provides content, which is something that kind of sets us aside from some others. So teachers don't just have to start them with a blank canvas, which is great for teacher wellbeing, as it gives teachers time to focus on the how of teaching rather than just the what are we going to teach. Which does allow them, we allow them also to adapt this to their context and their setting as well. There's a wealth of global networking opportunities. So ICA schools are based in over 90 countries around the world. So this really does allow for great collaborative professional development of teachers and leaders, including consultancy and webinars like this. This is more an India-specific webinar. However, I did notice some people joining from Vietnam earlier. So lots of great opportunities. And yeah, networking and so on and so forth on our PD hub. We also nurture globally competent and compassionate learners. So our curriculum It's always had international mindedness embedded within the curriculum since its inception, and we've now gone much deeper than that, and we really hope to promote global competence, which also aligns with local context and aligns to helping nurture our students to become passionate and informed, compassionate learners as well. And then finally, another benefit we see is that quality assurance that I just mentioned earlier. So being part of the ICA, it means having access to guidance, support, and achieving and maintaining really high standards of quality assurance. And that is in the way of certification, which is specific to India, recognition and accreditation. And that really helps enhance the school's credibility and reputation, attracting stakeholders who really value excellence in education. So just quickly, I'm not going to go into this in too much detail because it might be a little bit too much, but all three of our curricula are based around the 7 foundations that you can see on the screen. For the IEYC, which is for the younger of our children, we have slightly adapted Foundation 1 and Foundation 7. And this is just to recognise the distinct nature of learning within the early years. So Foundation 1, we've got learner focus, personal, international and subject learning goals. So the personal, we have 8 personal learning goals, values that we really sort of champion within the curriculum. The international that I've just mentioned as well, and the subject learning goals. And then for the IEYC, we have child focused personal, same personal goals, international and academic dimensions of learning and development. So just a slight difference. We have learning goals for IPC and IMYC and learning dimensions for IEYC. Foundation 2 is a progressive pedagogy. So we're always doing lots of research about sort of having that progressive pedagogy within our curricula. Foundation 3 is a process to facilitate learning for all, and this is like a set structure that all of our units of learning. So if you've seen a unit of learning, you will know that set structure all of the units take, again adapted age appropriately, but it's that connected learning that happens in the units of learning themselves, starting with entry point through to exit point. Foundation 4, we've got globally competent learners, and this is something that is, as I say, it's embedded, it's been there since the beginning, and that is embedded through all 3 of our curricula, really trying to help our learners become globally competent 21st century citizens. Foundation 5 is knowledge, skills and understanding are taught, learned and assessed differently. And we really recommend schools creating definitions for knowledge, skills and understanding. So the learners can really have those conversations, even the little ones, have those conversations about what are they learning? Is it knowledge? Is it skills? Is it understanding? Foundation 6 is connected learning. We speak lots about those different connections, making those connections to prior learning, which helps deepen those learning and connections across subjects and so on. And then finally, Foundation 7 is assessment for improving learning, or reflective practices for improving learning, which is for our early years. So today's webinar is a panel discussion. So I'm going to introduce you. I'm going to introduce you to the panel. This is the type of thing that we're going to be sort of discussing and hopefully sharing. Our panel will be sharing sort of factors in influencing their decision to adopt the ICA curricula, change management strategies for that smooth implementation, professional development, what type of professional development and ongoing professional development have their teachers had, and that community support and understanding as well. So I'd just like to introduce you to our panel today, who've kindly given up their time to share their journeys. We've got Miss Shalini Nabibba from Jaipura School. We have Dr. Snasi Kumar from Nauru World and Healthy Planet, and also Miss Susan Holmes from Nauru World and Healthy Planet. So welcome to our webinar, ladies, and thank you for, I'm just going to stop sharing my screen, sorry. Thank you for taking the time.
Shalini is facing some internet challenges, so
No
she's
problem at
trying,
all.
but she
That's
might.
fine. That's fine. We'll start by asking Susan and Sunasi to share their journey, and then hopefully Shalini will have her tech issues ironed out by that point. So can I hand over to you ladies and just sort of to share what because you guys have been using our curricula. So what was the driver for that change, and how has it gone, and what's your journey? So I'll hand over to you to share your story. I'll be quiet for a minute.
Thank you, Alex.
No problem.
Ma'am, if I may start. I think about 7 years ago, we made the transition from a previous curriculum to adopting the IEYC. I think one of the first things that we wanted in our new curriculum while making a choice was that it's rooted in brain science and the latest brain research as to how children's brains develop and grow and what's best for their development and learning. So that was one of the criteria we were trying to evaluate different curricula on. Will this be in sync with the school's vision? Because our school's vision is rooted very deeply in brain science. And that, of course, can be different given different contexts for different schools. But we are big believers of Harvard's brain-based research and the brain science behind it. And so the IEYC checked that box for us very majorly because, as you just shared, the 7 foundations really align beautifully with a lot of latest brain science research and how brains develop. The other criteria we were looking for was, previously we had a very structured curriculum, and we wanted to move towards a curriculum that would sort of balance out the structure with flexibility. We didn't want a completely open-ended curriculum because we felt in our context, it would not work to let the teachers make their own curriculum or for, say, have an emergent curriculum. I'll be very honest, I don't think we and our team had the skill set to do that. So that was not an aspiration for us. But we were looking at a happy medium between giving children flexibility, opportunities to lead their learning, yet not overwhelming the teachers with giving them a vast open space saying, this is your topic and go structure it the way you feel like. So the IEYC checked that box as well for us. And another point that I can think of is we wanted our teachers to feel empowered by the curriculum. What we have been having previously, the teachers sort of felt strapped and overwhelmed that I have to do this and I have to do this and then I have to follow this and there's so much going on. We wanted them to feel that the curriculum is their friend, that it's their partner in empowering them, helping them in their journey, and giving them ideas and options, allowing them to grow as well. Why should the curriculum only make the children grow and benefit? Everybody involved should be enriched in whatever small, big way they can. So that's another thing potentially we found the IEYC interesting for, because of, again, the flexibility, the community that it creates, and it opens the world up to teachers who can then engage with a lot of other teachers around the globe. So you can share ideas, you can share practice. We thought these were a couple of powerful points while we were making our choice. Susan, ma'am, over to you, please.
Thank you, Suhasini, ma'am. You've said it all, really. And I just like to reinforce the point of the IEYC being a flexible curriculum. I've heard it described as a toolkit. I think there's some words in one of your documents, so that it can actually be used to fit the context of the school. So it's not like having to start at page 1 and go through to the end. It's very flexible and adaptable to the needs of you and, more importantly, perhaps your children as they progress on their learning journey. So, for example, I think there's about 20 units of learning now. And these units of learning are structured in such a way that while it gives a guideline of 4 to 6 weeks, if your children are particularly engaged with that unit of learning or taking learning on a particular route, leading their own learning into something perhaps you hadn't planned for, that can be part of a very rich learning experience. I think that's important to mention as well. What I think over the time of, I think of nearly 7 years, certainly 6, Suhasini ma'am, that we've been using this curriculum, we've grown and learned so much with the support of the IEYC and the International Curriculum Association. And what's noticeable to us in the last couple of years of how much their breadth and depth of professional development and learning has improved, has increased. And really there's something for everybody there as far as professional development is concerned. Whether I'm a leader with lots of experience, but want to keep up to date and I'm embarking on a new curriculum and leading my team into this, or I'm just a beginning teacher. There's something there for everyone. And that would certainly be a big plus point for schools just starting on this journey now, I think.
Speaking, so you've kind of touched on the professional development element, Susan. So I would say possibly, especially within early years settings, sometimes that is the professional development for the teachers. Would you say it's a sometimes quite a mind shift, and how is that? How have you managed that with your staff and your team? Has it been quite a mind shift from maybe the training that they've had previously? And does that make sense? Is that question making sense?
I think it was a journey we were perhaps on already. So Hasni ma'am, I think I agree with that in terms of us already, when we first started on this journey, our approach to learning was very much in empowering children, engaging them in their learning, enabling them to lead their learning, to explore and to be able to express themselves would have been part of our learning cycle. So Hasni ma'am, would you like to come in there and add a little more?
I thank you, Susan ma'am. I think, like ma'am said, we have an in-house structure with a fairly robust training, and it's in place where we regularly do coaching and training. But what's different for me in the IEYC training is that there are no straight answers. There's no one way of doing anything. And it's a lot of your reflection as a teacher and me as a teacher or our entire staff engaging as a team in metacognition, in trying to figure out the best way, the most effective way, and what might work for one section of children, the same would not work for the other section who can be the exact same age group and fairly the same backgrounds as well. So this sort of, I think, is a bit of a struggle because we're used to straight answers. Tell us what to do and we'll go straight in the class and do it. So there are no straight answers in the IEYC, but it's a beautiful journey of exploring what works for you and truly allowing children to lead their learning. Because when you follow them, then you know what to do because they're leading your class. But then how do you do that? So a lot of training was around restructuring your class, your classroom processes, how you will set up, how you will execute. A bit of that, I would say, change management, that was more critical, in my opinion, for us, more than the content of the IEYC, is what is it and what's it about, the foundations. It's really how you bring it to life in the class, which is a tricky bit.
So, and as well, obviously, so your schools are using the IEYC, and I think you touched on like the flexibility, and that goes across all three of the curricula as well. So we do allow schools to adapt and make the curriculums work for them. So I think that's I think it is, we're flexible across the board. So I think that is a good point to make. And then all three of that community aspect and you know, tying in your local context again, we want schools to be able to do that, and it's easy to do that. We allow schools to do that, make those changes, make things work for themselves. One question that I know that we do get asked on a regular basis is why are there no textbooks? Why is there not a textbook that links to everything? And that is something, is that something that sort of your parents maybe even ask about? Or what would your answer to be, what would your answer be around sort of textbooks and so on?
Always an interesting question. Of something where there's no right or wrong answer. But do children, as our context that we've got in our minds this evening is our youngest learners, who really, probably don't need a textbook at that very, very young age, and are able to engage with the world around them, with the learning resources that are prepared for them, and even create their own. And there's so much joy in the natural world. If we've all got our, however small it may be, our learning gardens, our gardens where plants and flowers are growing, which attract the butterflies, that's so much more powerful with the little ones than any textbook. I know you said there's lots of school leaders and proprietors listening in this evening, but I think that's so true. And then you shared this question with us, and I was thinking in the context of, well, when children are in the following the middle years curriculum, do they need a book? And perhaps we would say a little more that they do. But an international curriculum is very rich, very diverse, lots of different perspectives that maybe one textbook isn't enough to really do justice to those students' learning journeys. Therefore, always have a range of resources that they can dip into. That would be my immediate answer. So, Hasni Ma'am, I don't know what you think.
I think perhaps my oversimplistic answer to this would be that children in the early years are not reading with comprehension. So essentially, the textbook is for the teacher. The part it plays for the child is that it structures the child's learning, and you have to finish this page before you go home today, or something on those lines. It gives us a sense of comfort as educators that I'm on the right track. The IUIC, because it doesn't have textbooks per se, perhaps because of this absence, helps us really follow the children and helps us to customize and differentiate as per children's learning needs. Is it easy? No, it's a challenging task, but we delight in seeing how once we make the journey, children benefit tremendously, and the growth we see in the children and the teachers' thinking is phenomenal post that.
So basically, it's less restrictive by not having that textbook. And so you just touched upon the learning of the children. So have you seen sort of a difference in the learning that happens within the classroom with, since you made that change? Do you see sort of I don't want to put words into your mouth, but have you seen much change within the curriculum, within the learning that happens due to the curriculum?
I think what comes foremost to me is how children are unafraid to question us. The thinking, whether it's creative thinking, whether it's critical thinking, the kind of questions they come up with, and they demand to investigate and inquire more about, say, Dinosaur Detective, which is their favorite, or Blast Off, which is another unit of the early years curriculum. And they genuinely feel empowered by the curriculum, and that gives them more confidence to carry the same behavior into literacy and numeracy classes, which might be independent of the IEYC, but that behavior sort of percolates into other areas of learning, helping us build holistic learners and give them an empowered learning experience.
Thank you. So you've got some confident learners there questioning their teachers. Dimash, I'm just wondering, go on, Susan, was you about?
Just share with everyone an experience that we had when talking with a pre-nursery parent yesterday, a new admission to the school. So a child would have been 2 in the next 3 or 4 months, coming into our pre-nursery class next year. And the father said, "I hear you have a lot of homework." And I'm not sure where he'd heard this from, but anyway, what I then talked to him about, because some parents in our context are concerned about, 1, where's the textbook, 2, where's the homework, and has my child done it, that sort of approach. But I talked about the Brilliant Bug Ball, which is another unit, and it's all about insects and as you can imagine, and where they can be found and all of that. And the children love going on a bug hunt or an insect walk and actually observing what's around them. And this is where you can make a beautiful link with the parents, in terms of go home, talk with your parents about what insects you can find where you live. And that gives an immediate context for the child, and makes a link with their learning. So it's not only a school or home thing, but it's actually a connection between learning. And I think that's really important. And on this journey, if you're just starting out, and this is a little away from the question, but that involvement with the parents is actually critical in its successful implementation. Because I know when we started on this journey, we spent a lot of time talking with our parents so that they understood. They became learners in an imaginary classroom for parents as well, so they understood what it was like for their children. And that really, really helped us on our journey. And continuous communication with them, whether it's through the home letter each unit or however you choose to do it, where you have an online learning journal or something like that, will really make a difference. But from before day one, you need your parents on board with you. That was the point I wanted to make.
I think that's a really, really key point, Susan, because that is sometimes is a battle, like you mentioned, about some where's the homework and where's this, or what have they learned so many words, or you get asked all of those questions. So so you do a parent's induction at the beginning of each year, so they understand what your aims are for learning and so on.
Yes, absolutely. And probably come back in once or twice during the year as well. And I think nobody's mentioned as far as so far, we've heard about entry points and exit points. They are beautiful opportunities where the parents can actually come into school and celebrate their children's learning with you in school. And that's very, very powerful as well. So over the course of the year, they see for themselves the progress that their children are making, actually have an opportunity to learn with them in school. And then there's always an opportunity to ask questions. And I think that open door is so important.
Yeah. I think somebody in the chat has just put having textbooks is something tangible in hand for parents, gives them some control on their child's education so they can help the child with the help from the textbook, which I think sort of from an early years perspective, I think I totally agree with what you both said earlier about it's less of a necessity for an early years child, and maybe more of a it might stifle the learning a little bit more, maybe higher up the school, possibly. I don't know if you have any response for that sort of statement at all, or?
I always think context really matters.
Yeah.
You know, your relationship as a school and an organization with your clientele, with the serve, and that has to be a starting point.
Yeah, so I think it's about educating the parents about what you're trying to do, as much as to help them understand why, maybe in this situation, a textbook isn't the best way for the children to learn, and explaining through your inductions and your drop-ins how much they're learning without that textbook being I suppose it's just involving them in that loop, isn't it, of just sort of looking at the so somebody's put kids are learning, but there's a gap of understanding of concept and skills to be developed. And I think it's just that language that you're probably using within school, helping. It's a mind shift, isn't it, for parents and sometimes for teachers, depending on what training they've had prior to teaching in a slightly different way, perhaps. So Diraj, is Shalini able to join, or is she still having technical?
Yeah, seems like that. She's been trying, but she's not been able to connect.
No problem. Is there any other questions that you have, Diraj?
Yeah, I think one of the key questions that also keep cropping up is, if we have to implement. So there are a lot of state boards and CBSE board schools as well in our country who are looking to sort of uh, become progressive schools, want to make that transformational journey from being that traditional approach to a very progressive approach. And they don't know where to start from, right? And they keep asking us, is there an infrastructure change that they would need to bring in? And was that something you as a school also did when you were looking to transform your school from a traditional Indian curriculum to an international curriculum?
I think it's probably a one-word answer. Essentially, no.
Perfect. Okay.
Answer, Suhasini ma'am, wouldn't it?
Yes, ma'am, absolutely. I think the changes we made were more around pedagogy, processes, methods, timetable. One very critical element I remember was timetabling, because our previous timetable was 20 minutes, 40 minutes, next. But with the IYC, if you say children have to leave their learning and inquire, and if they like something, they want to spend more time on it, my bell can't ring and say, okay, switch to math. It doesn't work that way. But that's a pretty core change that we made, that the early years will have a fluid timetable. In our context, it's worked really well, but may not be possible for everyone to move their timetable so fluidly. But certain amount of flexibility, I feel, is critical when you're setting your goals for how long will your theme take, your unit take to finish, and every day how much time will you spend on it, and how will the learning flow. Because along with the IYC, we have to juxtapose our literacy and our numeracy intervention. And that probably will have a textbook which is structured. So how do you move from this free learning environment into a structured phonics handbook or writing for numerals, etc., etc.? So that has to be planned carefully, is what I'll say, not infrastructure so much.
Right. Thank you so much. And that makes sense, right? So it's more on the teaching aspect rather than the infrastructural aspect that is required. And there is a huge challenge with schools, right? Today, they don't have the right staff, they don't have the right teachers, they don't have access to the right kind of training for them to develop. So did you spend a lot of time on training your teachers initially when you started? Or it's a journey, I know. It's not something you sort of give a training and hope that everything changes overnight. Uh, but I would love to understand what was your experience with professional development of the teaching staff, or whether you found it difficult to find good quality teaching staff.
Susan, I would like to go for this first.
I think for teachers to be able to be their best and actually enhance the learning of the children and be progressive, because at the beginning we were talking about brain research. Not too long ago we would never have heard of brain research. So in order to do the best for our children in the classroom in the 21st century, we need to keep continuously updating ourselves. So professional development and learning is quite critical for the school to be able to progress whichever curriculum. In the Indian context, we've just had a massive change, which over time will be implemented with NEP coming in around 2019. Professional development's critical to that. It's critical to any new curriculum. And even if you're not changing the curriculum, the ways that you're teaching and learning and working with your children and empowering them to be the best they can be, teachers do need to be well qualified. And we're not now in the age of standing in front of the classroom, forgive me for saying this, with a textbook and expecting the children to listen for 40 minutes, and then we'll close our book and continue. So professional development is critical to the success of the children, and I believe that a pleasurable, joyful experience for the teachers as well as they deliver that curriculum. So not just do some PD this week and then it's done. It needs to be an ongoing process which meets the needs of your teachers. Of course, some will be more experienced than others, and the more experienced ones, or who are particularly good at, for example, leading active learning, or talking about reflection, or introducing metacognition, they're perfect role models to share their learning with others. So it doesn't need to be lots of expense on professional development and people coming in who don't know your context. A lot of the work, I believe, in professional development can go on within the context of your school and making the best of each other's learning and encouraging best practice within your professional, within your teaching staff. Hasni, ma'am, I'm sure you have things to add on that.
Thank you, ma'am. I think a culture of learning, no matter how you decide to structure it. Some schools have the bandwidth to do workshops. They'll do some workshops. Some would probably do observation and coaching after doing observations in the class and watching teachers practice. If you can visit other schools who are doing IEYC to see a classroom in action, that's the best kind of learning experience. So whatever format you choose in your context, whatever works for you, I would definitely say a culture of learning has to be at the core, where the understanding is that everyone is supporting each other to learn and grow, and you have to read and you have to do your own research, and you have to, of course, read the unit several times over, and then you have to discuss, and there's power in that discussion, that post-reading conversation that teams have. And so schools would have to make space in their system, whether it's after children leave school or it's when you're planning your lessons, you make these learning circles and groups of teachers sit and ideate and brainstorm and thrash out what they're going to do and how they're interpreting what's in the unit, because that book is one perspective and your context is very, very crucial. You will have a certain set of resources, ideas, physical space that limits you or that you need to adapt to. And so, yes, I would in fact say just a training workshop would not be sufficient, because you'll have to discuss the nuances in depth of how this will look like and pan out for you inside the classroom. And that's a continuous work in progress. We've done it for 7 years now, the IEYC, and every year we do some units with a twist. We look back, we reflect, and we realize this activity is great, but can we try it another way in another context with some different resources? This didn't fly too well with the children. So we're constantly in that journey without getting overwhelmed. I think that's very critical, because a lot of our training centers around how to make IEYC the backdrop against which all literacy, numeracy, creative arts, and expressive arts sort of integrate. Because it's one thing to have the IEYC as a piece that you're implementing in your school, and it acquires a whole new level of potency and efficacy if we can integrate it across curricular areas. So in our journey, why we started out, we said, okay, IEYC is implemented at IEYC, and we do our own English and our math. And then we said, hey, there's so much more potential to integrate various elements and in a seamless flow conduct your day, where your literacy outcomes, your numeracy outcomes can be linked so seamlessly to what the IOIC exploration is. And in our experience, over the years, children have enjoyed it more. It's easier to implement, and it's definitely more fun and more effective. So that's, I think, one, anecdote I can share, that for us, the training, a lot of it is how to integrate without feeling, oh my God, there's a ton of things to do. And how, as a teacher with 4 hours in the class and 30 children in the class, can I implement it?
Yeah, it gives the children that learning with a purpose, doesn't it? Making those connections and making their maths and their literacy real and come to life. There's a few questions that I'll just go through in the chat. If anybody does want to come off mic to ask a question, put your hand up and we can address those questions. One of them, how many schools in India have so far adopted IPC and IMYC? I'll need to double check the exact breakdown. We've got 26 subscribing schools across the 3 curricula at this point, maybe 27. I would need to double check as the actual numbers. Are there any textbooks for IPC and IMYC, or do you suggest detailed syllabus, units of inquiry with some content? So like the ladies have been mentioning, so they use IEYC at their school. So all 3 of our curricula have a set of units of learning. So IEYC has got 24 units, nearly 26 units coming soon. They'll be up to 26 soon, Susan. You'll be happy to know an extra couple of units are coming. Laura's still working on those. IPC is the oldest of our curricula, is 25 years old, and therefore it has a lot of units of learning. All of the units are always evolved and updated and so on, but IPC actually has, across the 6 years that IPC spans, there are 153 units of learning. In an academic year, in one year group, you would probably only use a maximum of 5 to 7 units maximum. And again, you might select those units based on the needs of your school, what you might want to be covering for your own national curriculum if you're cross-referencing to your own national curriculum. So yeah, the choice of units would depend. And then for IMYC, there are 33 units of learning. And again, so all of the curricula have a set of learning goals or learning dimensions for IUIC. And then units of learning, which is the content within there. So those learning goals are what you would map to any other outcomes that you know is a non-negotiable that you have to meet in country. So that's kind of how our curricula work. So there's no specific textbooks, although there is some, you know, we are considering whether for the IMYC and IPC, whether some element of textbook might work, but at this point there isn't a specific textbook per unit of learning, so to speak, but all of the content is within the unit of learning for the teachers. So research, record, reflect tasks for IPC and IMYC, and then explore and express ideas in the IEYC. And then one of the same person, we've got a question of how is, and if Suda, if you wanted to come off mic to ask any questions, feel free. Your next question was, how is assessment planned for the end of middle years curriculum? So assessment, we have a formative assessment, and that formative assessment is an ongoing assessment throughout the subject. So the whole of IMYC, they will be assessed sort of middle years 1, middle years 2, middle years 3, but continuous. It's not just sort of at the end of a unit of learning. So by the end, then there may be other sort of assessments that are taking place as well, but generally what schools tend to do is use those formative assessment and do some summative assessments as well. And then your 2 more questions from this person. So we've got, how does the curriculum prepare students? And ladies, if you want to add anything into this, feel free. How does this curriculum prepare students for secondary or high school? If school is affiliated to CBSE, IGCSE or IB. So yeah, basically I can just
sometimes in December end, we're going to start with a new batch. Now, of course,
trying to see whether I can.
You guys to the upcoming batch.
Would you be able to just? I think someone's having a conversation in the background. Sorry, do you want to see if you can just mute the?
Anybody is interested in enrolling for the master's program, get in touch with me, and I can help you with any information that you need regarding the program.
I'm just trying to open the chat back up. Sorry.
Any questions that you guys have?
Sorry, I just lost all the so yeah, we do say it does prepare. So our the feedback from our schools is that it does prepare the learners well, depending on what route you are going to be using, would depend on the unit of learning that maybe you would use to help prepare your students for that next stage. And then we've just got one final question. How does ICA compare or contrast with Cambridge or IB or CBSE curriculum in cost, content and support? I think I might let you pick up on this one from an Indian perspective, Dheeraj.
Right. So, yeah, so how does it compare and contrast with Cambridge IB CBSE curriculum? I think it aligns well with each one of them, right? You can implement it to align each one of them. I mean, I would love to know your perspective, Suhasini. How does it blend with the, because you're using multiple curriculums yourself. But as far as what we understand from a Indian context, and or contrast with Cambridge or IB, see, first and foremost, IB and ICA are curriculum developers and providers. Cambridge and Pearson, Oxford, all of these are publishers. They want to sell books, right? That's their business. When we talk about ICA and even IB for that matter of fact, they are more advanced because of, like Suhasini and Susan ma'am mentioned, it's based on brain research. They're more focused on enabling the teachers to teach effectively and communicate with the students effectively. It is based on an approach of pedagogy where you're not just really looking to supply information, but you're looking to create a learning environment within the classroom and within the school as well. So I think that's where ICA is different, and in contrast to other of these. I mean, feel free to add anybody, Susan, Suhasini, if you would like to add here.
We've got we've got Sonia has got a hand up. Sonia, do you want to come off mute and ask if you've got a question you'd like to ask?
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me now?
I can, yes.
Yeah, my question is a little different. I have no doubt on the potential of this international curriculum, what you are offering, and I truly believe it has a lot to offer to the learners. My question is basically to maybe to Healthy Planet team, because see what I learned that they have got a new school which they have recently set up 7 months back, and they adopted this curriculum. Maybe at their Ghaziabad branch also they adopted this particular curriculum. So if you adopt an international curriculum at a stage where you are hiring the entire staff new, and maybe some of their teachers are very from a very progressive and different backgrounds where they were not earlier into the teaching setup, so they picked up people with clean slate and they gave them rigorous training, and that's why it works so well with them. So I have a question to the team that imagine a CBSE school where they have staff working with them from 15 years, 20 years, and they're so used to working with a structured environment, structured curriculum. How effective it is, and how the mind shift works if you have to use your same staff to now transact this international curriculum. So how difficult the journey is, and what will be the challenges that one might face? I hope my question is clear.
Yes, absolutely. Hi, Sonia. Thank you for your question. Susan, ma'am, should I attempt at answering?
Yes, ma'am, please.
So, you're right. Our new school has the curriculum, but it's stemming from our confidence in the curriculum is stemming from the Ghaziabad facility, where we've been using the curriculum for the past 7 years. And I think if I have to really be blatantly honest with you, I would say that change is never easy. And coming from a structured curriculum, which we were previously using, to something which is fairly open-ended and open to interpretation like the IUIC, it's challenging. And fair amount of hand-holding of teachers, which includes workshops, observations, learning walks, etc., is required to make the teachers feel at ease. I think initially the first couple of months, our teachers constantly just felt overwhelmed because there was so much to do and they couldn't really see it happening in the class because they were used to an approach which was more worksheet driven earlier. So children's learning was very tangibly either there or not there. So it gave them a sense of control. But when we pulled away the books from them and we said, okay, this is going to be children leading their learning and there's option of what to do in the class, children not only lead their learning, they choose what to do. So at the same time, one set of children is doing something, another is doing something completely different. The teachers landed up feeling very overwhelmed. Despite trying their best, they'd come to us and say, I feel my children are not learning. They're having a stupendous time in the class. They're really enjoying themselves, but they're not learning. What am I to give them in homework? What am I to say to the parents? So a lot of our training was just holding their hands and asking them to be patient with us, with the curriculum, with themselves in this journey, because it takes a lot of time to really imbibe the values of the IUIC. And I would say it's an ongoing process. But it's very, very possible for any school teachers, is what I would say. Susan, ma'am, please.
Thank you. Absolutely critical. And Sonia, ma'am, I think you said it yourself when you mentioned mindset. That's really, really important that as a leadership team with your staff, you grow together. And once you've decided we're going to embark on this journey, celebrate together as well those small steps. Be there with the team. They're implementing and working with the children in the classroom, but you, the leadership team, are there to support and encourage and build their confidence. And our staff, not even today, it's part of our practice that at the end of each day they have some time together before they go home and we'll talk about what went well today, what can we do even better. So there's that continuous review and sharing of practice. 4 classrooms, 4 pairs come together and share their experiences from the day, and there's so much from those different classrooms to share that can actually enrich and invigorate everybody for the next day as they go forward. And there's that confidence to say, as a leadership team, we're here with you. We'll support you on this journey, and allow the members of your team who clearly are more confident and becoming happier with, I'm going to say, the new approach to teaching and learning, actually to begin to lead that learning. And it really is doable, but it's an ongoing journey over time. Thank you.
I think that's something that your schools are very good at, is that continued professional development. Only this year you kindly hosted a professional development that allowed other schools from India and around who could get to that particular event to do a professional development where everybody could come and connect and learn and develop and have that change of mindset and so on. So, but yeah, I know you guys are constantly doing that professional development within your school, so which is amazing. And it's, I think it's about what we want to try and do is continue that and, you know, have something, maybe whether it's annually, biannually, for the schools within India to all gather and be able to connect and learn from each other and learn, you know, best practice, and hopefully make that mindset not such a big hurdle for some teachers. Obviously, hearing from Sonia, sometimes it might be quite scary. How do we get past that? And I think it is speaking to other like-minded teachers who have been on that journey. It really does help. I think that there's been a few sort of questions and people answering questions within the chat, or I think there's another couple just.
Ranjita wants to ask a question, so
yeah.
Let's let her unmute and. Yeah.
Oh, so thank you so much, sir, and thank you, ma'am, for giving me the opportunity to ask question. So just wanted to share a point, though the session is wonderful, but what my learning says is a lot of teachers, they need to learn a lot. Before entering the class, a lot of homework has to be done. It's not 9 to 3 or 9 to or 8 to 2 job. It's a lot of research the teacher has to do before entering in the class. One thing. Second thing is to learn peer learning, which ma'am was just now sharing. That's a wonderful idea. But here the thing is the school should stop praising teachers. I'm sorry, I'm using comparing teachers. I'm sorry, I used the wrong word. Because what happens is in schools, teachers are ready to learn from each other. The moment from management side, when there is a comparison, oh my God, this teacher is doing great. And so what happens is there is a kind of competition. In that competition, teachers, they forget what is their actual goal, and then they start to please the authorities instead of working in their own area and pleasing the children, satisfying the children through their activity and knowledge. What they do is their attention gets diverted. I hope I'm saying whatever I'm seeing in schools. The thing is, in this kind of curriculum, it's very important to learn from each other, because this curriculum talks about collaboration. That's what I've understood. This collaboration means learning from each other.
Yeah.
Now, for me to learn from the opponent, my mind should be ready to understand or see the positives what my opponent is doing or the second teacher is doing. Now for that, what I feel, ma'am, one very important thing every school should start is stop comparing teachers. I hope was I right? That's what I feel. Because the moment you say that this teacher is doing wonderful, no, that praise is important. Now praise can go in the envelope. It can go in the an envelope. Okay, you are doing a wonderful work, so that it stays with the teacher, whoever is contributing, yes, or following the school's vision. But in public, it should be like everyone is working very hard and let's together and learn from each other in that way, because it's easy to find out the faults from but then it's very difficult to say that yes, the my colleague is doing well, so let me sit and learn from her. Because there's a kind of comparison, a competition word has the word twist has already twisted. There is a now that competition. The teachers are little scared, because if the management says or compares, what am I going to do about the reputation? That's what I feel, ma'am. So the first thing is, if a school has to follow this kind of curriculum, it's learning curriculum, and for the first year it will be very challenging. So there, to learn from each other, there will be teachers who will understand this curriculum a little faster than the other teachers. So there should be no comparison. It's learning time, just learning time. Learn and go. Share your thoughts, share with your learning with each other, and go. So in everyone's what that is what I have understood after listening to the session. The curriculum is good. A lot of hard work has to be done from the teacher's side, because it's not structured. So we need to imagine first to make the children imagine.
I think it is it's a everybody needs to be on board in the school, don't they? And kind of I think it always, leadership down or from bottom up, everybody needs to be on the same page as to why you're doing something and what are the benefits that are coming out of this. And obviously that is benefits for both, like the lady said earlier. It's sort of benefits for the teachers and for the leaders and for the learners as well. So it's kind of looking at all of those benefits that are actually coming out of the curriculum, and not sort of pitching people as, oh, they've really got it, or if someone has maybe clicked with it quicker, it's about them sharing and supporting their colleagues, rather than being kind of given that sort of accolade of they're the best, or that's not something that we would normally do. It's about them kind of bringing back into the school and sharing sort of what they're doing and helping and supporting, really. I think. I know that we've kind of gone over time.
Go on. Alex, to add to what you said about the previous question, contrary to pitting teachers against each other, in our context, in our experience, what's worked really well is when you share your resources. So if one class has giant dinosaurs or aliens set up and drawn and made, because that's the unit of inquiry that they're going to be doing, the other section borrows their resources and they take turns. Otherwise, it's a huge amount of investment of time, energy, and everybody's headspace into what the best materials are in terms of resources. The art and craft, the toys, the tools, etc. So if you, amongst your sections, amongst your classes, if you can plan in a way that you can share your resources, it becomes so much easier. And like the lady said, Ranjita, I think, yes, it's got homework to do before you enter the class. You will have to be prepared, but it's a perfectly enjoyable and doable preparation is what I want to reiterate. It doesn't matter what you taught earlier. If you love children and you're interested in doing the best for them, you will really enjoy the journey. It will really elevate your thought process, in my personal opinion, is what I wanted to put out there. Thank you, Alex.
No problem. And as I say, I think we have run over time. I think I think most of the questions are answered, but what we will do is we'll have a quick look through the chat, and if there is anything that we have missed, we will respond via email with a response to you. I think if you've joined the webinar, you will already have either Rakesh or Diraj's email contact. So if you did want to set up a meeting directly with them to speak and ask any specific questions, they'd be more than happy to do that. But yeah, I think as we've already run over 10 minutes, I don't want to take up any more of and Susan's time. So I thank you all for joining us, and thank you so much for giving up your time. Is there anything that you wanted to add, Diraj?
No, I'm just thank you so much, everyone, for sparing time and staying with us for almost one hour. Thank you so much, Susan and Suhasini. Appreciate you sparing time and making for this. And anybody who has further questions, doubts, queries, please feel free to contact us. I know some of the questions were not answered, so you can always connect with Rakesh, set up a meeting, and we can discuss everything in detail. Thank you so much. And as Alex mentioned, we have already overshot our timeline. And thank you so much, guys, everyone. And yeah, we'll stay in touch.
We'll go through the question. I think there'll be a recording, won't there, Diraj? And we'll go through the questions in the chat. And if there's anything that we have missed, we'll pop an email through to you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.